There's a word that shows up in almost every conversation about retirement money. One word. And most people never stop to ask who decided it was true. Safe. The safe part of your portfolio. The safe half. The part you shift into as you get older so you can stop worrying and start living. I want you to hold on to that word, because a man who has been right about exactly one enormous thing in his life, and wrong about a fair number of smaller ones, just pointed directly at it. Not at tech stocks, not at crypto, at the safe part. Let me back up. I was 32 in 2008, living in a walk-up on the east side, working a job I thought was stable, and I remember the exact moment it stopped being abstract for me. It wasn't the news. It was my neighbor across the hall, a guy named Ed, mid-60s, retired postal worker. He knocked on my door one evening holding a piece of paper, his quarterly statement, and he asked me if I could look at it, because he thought maybe he was reading it wrong. He wasn't reading it wrong, and the thing that stayed with me all these years wasn't the number on that page. It was that Ed had done everything right. He'd saved, he'd been conservative, he'd listened to the guy at the bank. He had followed the instructions, and the instructions had failed him, and there was no version of the future where Ed got those years back to earn it again. That's the part nobody puts in the movies. Now. In November of last year, Michael Burry did something that got almost no coverage. He shut down his fund. Not paused, not restructured. He deregistered Scion Asset Management with the SEC, returned the capital to his investors, and walked away from the business of managing other people's money entirely. And then he started talking. If you only know Burry from the film, Christian Bale, the drum kit, the bare feet, here's the part the movie compressed. In 2005, he did something no one else was doing. He read the actual loan documents, thousands of pages of mortgage-backed securities, the stuff nobody reads, and he found that the loans underneath them were going to default on a schedule you could almost set a watch to. Then he bet everything on it. And here's the part that matters more than the win. He was early, painfully early. For nearly 2 years his fund bled. His own investors, the people who had trusted him, tried to pull their money out. Some of them threatened to sue him. He put up gates to stop the withdrawals, which made them angrier. He was, by every visible measure, failing. He was right the entire time. Being right just hadn't happened yet. Warren Buffett, testifying before Congress about the crisis afterward, called him Cassandra. Now, if you remember your Greek myths, Cassandra was given the gift of seeing the future accurately, and along with it, a curse. Nobody would ever believe her. She could describe the disaster in detail, out loud, to people standing in front of her, and they would walk away thinking she was unwell. Burry took the name. His newsletter is called Cassandra Unchained. His account is called Cassandra Unchained. He named himself after the woman nobody listened to. Which brings us to July 23rd of this year. He posted a short message, not an essay, a few lines, and it said, "Watch the long bonds." He listed what he was watching: treasuries under pressure from what he called AI's debt explosion, rising inflation volatility, stress in something called the basis trade, oil pushing back toward $100. And he ended with a line about private equity and private credit, saying he wasn't sure how much longer they could hold their breath. Then he went quiet again. Now, I want to slow down here, because this is where most videos about Michael Burry lose the thread. They hear warning, and they run straight to the stock market. That's not what he said. Long bonds are not the risky part of anybody's portfolio. Long bonds are the part that's supposed to be boring. If you have a target date retirement fund, and if you're within 15 years of retiring, there's a very good chance you do, because that's the default in most workplace plans now. That fund is designed to automatically move you out of stocks and into bonds as you age. It does this quietly, in the background, without asking you. That's the whole product. That's what you're paying for. The mechanism that's supposed to protect you moves you toward the exact thing he's pointing at. Here's the number. In 2026, the 30-year Treasury yield has closed above 5% on 27 trading days. That sounds like nothing. Let me give you the comparison. Last year, that happened on 6 days. In 2023, 7 days, 27. And the only recent year with a longer stretch than that, the only one, was 2007, when it ran 50 days. I'm not going to oversell that. 2007 doesn't guarantee anything about 2026. But I'd point out that Burry doesn't have to make that comparison out loud. The number makes it for him. And he knows it, because 2007 is the year that made him. So, why does this matter to somebody who has never bought a bond in their life and has no intention of starting? Because you probably own them anyway. And because when interest rates rise, bond prices fall. And the longer the bond, the harder it falls. There's a number that measures exactly this. It's called duration. It's on your fund's fact sheet, usually one line, usually ignored. And the rough translation is this. If the duration is 15, then a 1% rise in rates costs that fund somewhere around 15% of its value. Not a crash. Not a headline. Just a number on a page, getting smaller. My mother is 78. Lives in Queens. Same apartment, 40 years. She has a folder, an actual paper folder, where she keeps her statements. And last spring she asked me to go through it with her because something didn't look right. Her stock funds had done fine. Her bond fund had not. And she said something to me that I've thought about probably once a week since. She said, "I thought that one was the one that didn't do this." That's the whole video, really. Right there in one sentence from a 78-year-old woman at a kitchen table. And this isn't hypothetical, because we already ran this experiment. In 2022, bonds and stocks fell at the same time, which is precisely what the standard retirement portfolio is built to prevent. Long-dated treasuries had one of the worst years in their modern history. People who had done the conservative thing, who had followed the instructions, who had moved into the safe part on schedule, opened their statements and found losses they had been told were structurally impossible for them. Nobody went to prison. Nothing broke. The system worked exactly as designed. The design just wasn't what people thought it was. Okay, now I have to give you the other side, and I'd ask you to actually listen to this part, because it's the reason I'm making this video instead of just repeating a headline. Michael Burry has been wrong. Repeatedly. He has called for crashes that did not arrive. He has been early so often that early has become the polite word for it. There's a genuine serious argument, made by serious people, that he is a broken clock, permanently bearish, so that when a downturn eventually comes, as downturns always do, he gets to be right again. If you had restructured your retirement around every Burry warning of the last 15 years, you would have missed an enormous amount of growth. That criticism is fair, all of it, and it doesn't cancel out 2008, and 2008 doesn't cancel out any of it either. But here's the thing, almost nobody mentions. And honestly, it's why I named this channel what I named it. When Burry ran a fund, he had to file a form with the SEC every quarter, a 13F. It listed his positions. It was public, it was mandatory, and it meant that any of us could check whether the man was actually doing what he said he was doing. He doesn't file those anymore. He can't. He closed the fund. His last verified filing covers the quarter ending September 2025. Everything since then is self-reported. When he says most of his portfolio is positioned a certain way, we have his word for it. That's not nothing. His word has been worth quite a lot historically. But it isn't the same thing as a document, and I think it's worth saying out loud that it isn't. There's one more piece. That newsletter is a paid product with a very large subscriber base. I don't say that to accuse him of anything, and by his own account, the reason he started it was that running money legally muzzled him. Regulators, compliance, cryptic fragments, media misreading his filings. I believe him. That is a real problem, and he's described it clearly. But a man whose income now depends on being interesting is in a different position than a man whose income depends on being correct. Both things can be true at once. You just deserve to know which one you're looking at. So what do you actually do with all this? Not what most channels tell you. I'm not going to tell you to move your money because I don't know your situation. I'm not your advisor, and anyone who tells a stranger on the internet what to do with their retirement account should not be trusted with it. What I'd suggest instead is that you go look. 3 things, all of them on paper you already own. Find the duration number on your bond fund. 1 line on the fact sheet. Look at your target date fund and find out what percentage of it is currently in bonds and how much longer that percentage is scheduled to grow. And pull up your 2022 statement if you still have it. Not to feel bad. To find out what the safe part actually did the last time this pressure showed up. For you specifically, not for the market in general. 3 numbers, maybe 20 minutes. And at the end of it, you'll know something about your own money that most people your age genuinely do not know about theirs. Here's where I land. I don't know if Burry is right this time. Neither does he, and to his credit, he didn't claim to. He said watch, and then he stopped talking. But go back to Ed, my neighbor. standing in the hallway in 2008 with a piece of paper he'd read 3 times. Ed didn't lose that money because he was reckless. He lost it because he was careful in a way that turned out not to be careful at all. He put his money in the place everyone told him was safe, and the word safe was doing a lot of quiet work that nobody had ever explained to him. That word is still doing that work. In fund brochures, in advisor meetings, in the automatic settings of a retirement plan you may not have looked at in 5 years. The man who called 2008 is pointing at it. You don't have to agree with him. You just have to know what he's pointing at, and whether any of it belongs to you. I'm going to keep pulling this thread on this channel. The warnings that got filed away, the fine print that turned out to matter, and the things about your money that are technically public and functionally invisible. If that's useful to you, subscribe. And if you know somebody who's within 10 years of retiring and has never once looked at the duration number on their bond fund, send this to them. That conversation costs nothing, and it's worth having before the statement arrives instead of after. I'm glad you're here. See you next time.